Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I dream of once in a lullaby. That was bad.
Well, she got the words right, I think.
I did. Aloha, my friends, and welcome, welcome to the Trail of Fire Roadcast. I'm Daniel, this is
Jenna.
And we send you greetings from the Pacific Northwest. We are in Oregon. We just said goodbye to the Aloha State, the Rainbow State, Hawaii, which was an epic adventure. Can't wait to share a little bit of that with you.
Yes.
Today we are in the cloudy, wet, green, rolling, mountainous hills of Oregon. And we just came past the Oregon Wildlife Safari. And I've seen the billboard since we've come into Oregon. It's one of these places where you drive through and they've shown pictures of giraffes and zebras and bears and rhinos, African animals. And it's one of these things where you stay in the vehicle and the animals come up to you like you're in the cage, but they're not. But I'm thinking to myself, what are you people thinking? You bring African animals to the Pacific Northwest where
it's cold.
It was snowing last night in one of the areas that we came through.
Yes, it's cold. Like we're in like long sleeves and like.
Yeah, I started the day in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah. Not very wise.
It is gorgeous. I mean,
it's beautiful.
I've got tears in my eyes as we're rolling through these because the scenery is so
stunning.
That's right, stunning. And I'm wondering, why on earth have I lived my entire life away from this place?
Yeah, because we've never been up to the Pacific Northwest before.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, we came through yesterday as we were coming up to Northern California. We came out past Mount Shasta, which is a large stratovolcano, which erupted in the 1700s, and they say is 30% likely that it would erupt in our lifetime. The Castle Crags. It's just amazing.
Yes, beautiful.
And so I'm so looking forward to being able to just experience this land and meet some new churches and some people up in this area. And so anyway, that's what's coming up. But let's talk about what we've just done. For those of you that have been following along, you know that we were just in Hawaii. Hawaii was our 18th state, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Oregon made state number 19. Washington will make state number 20. We're coming close to the halfway mark in this journey.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Unreal. So anyway, as we came into Hawaii, we spent the entire week. This is one of the first times we spent so much time just in one place, but we spent the entire week on the island of Maui. And Maui was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was trying to find the word, but I don't even know the right word.
I mean, first off, God's house in Maui with Stacy and Chris Miyake and their wonderful family, and then the family, the community at God's house.
Yes.
The Hawaiians have something called the Aloha spirit and the Ohana culture. And we experienced that to the 10th degree.
Yes, from the moment we got off the plane. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about that just for a moment.
Well, we've had the privilege of knowing Chris for a little bit of time, you more so than I. But the moment that we walked off the plane, everybody was just so welcoming and so friendly and just like you were already part of the family. And when I say family, I'm not just talking about like the church family or like an immediate family group. It's like the whole island of Maui family because of that Ohana and Aloha spirit culture that they have there. And so it was just like we were home, just because it didn't feel like we had been away from our home.
Yeah, overwhelmingly so too.
Yes.
I mean, there were plenty of times that I was like, Chris, you're doing too much. And honestly, that didn't make sense to me.
No, he did not comprehend that. He's like, what do you mean? There's no concept of too much, because you're just family and you love each other, take care of each other, and spend time with each other, eat together a lot. And so
the Hawaiian Polynesian culture is very much like what I experienced in the Middle East, which, is community, family, church, where everything revolves around the hub of family. And, being Western in our mindset, we think that we understand that concept, but the truth is we don't, and you don't know it until you've been in it and you realize this is something so foreign.
Right.
I mean, Western families, here's just a case in point. Western families, when they sit down to eat dinner, if they sit down to eat dinner,
It's true.
which is a rarity, they sit down at a table, they quickly gulp their food, and then they move back to whatever else the individuals are doing.
Yep.
Instead of spending hours there around the table, just enjoying one another's company. The phones are down, the food just continues to flow, and you just enjoy being there with one another. And it's not stressful, it's not strenuous, it's not work, it's just enjoyable.
And it's not rushed.
Right. And if you don't experience that culture in your own home, then you don't really understand the whole concept of true family and what they call ohana, which ohana is family.
Yeah.
And it is the culture of the island. There's several times that I would tell Chris, thank you. And he told me, he said, in the Hawaiian language, very much in the Eastern, he said, there is no word for you're welcome. There's just no word. It's like you say thank you, but it's understood that this is just what we do.
Right.
There's no need to say you're welcome. This wasn't earned. It's just this is who you are. That you're part of the family.
Yeah, and it wasn't expected for you to say thank you just because this is just who we are. So it's out of that overflow.
Yeah. So Chris and I did 2 videos. We talked about what's happening at God's house, and we talked about the ohana culture. And so both those are 2 that I think that, and here's kind of like, as we've gone through this trip, there's 3 videos that I think that every church leader that I'm connected with really should watch. One is the one with Pastor Caleb Cooper talking about contending for revival and awakening across the state of Arizona. The other one is in New Mexico.
Yeah.
The other one is in Arizona at Fresh Start Church with Paul and Jan Owens.
No.
Paul and Kim.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
At Fresh Start Church, which discusses stewarding a move of God. And then this one that we just did talking about the ohana culture.
Yeah.
And what was neat, Jenna, is that we did that in Hana.
Yes, you did.
Which we had just completed the road to Hana, which if you just Google that, road to Hana, and I've got some video I need to post of just doing the road.
Yeah.
It's 500 turns in 40 miles. It is just, a lot of times a single lane road that has a 1,000-foot cliff to your left, and you've got oncoming traffic, and it's a game of chicken.
Yeah.
To decide who's going to be the one who's going to yield to the other one.
Well, and Chris was the one that was driving. I didn't get to go, but you went, and he was saying how tourists will literally drive off the cliff.
Yeah, I even got to see.
Because they don't know how to drive the road.
There was one spot we came past. There's literally a car in the canyon.
Oh gosh.
They never fished it out because I guess it's just too much work.
That's crazy.
The road to Hana, which is one of the listed in the top 10, top 5 most dangerous roads in the world. It was fun. Every turn there's a waterfall. You move through a tropical environment into a rainforest, into a bamboo forest, into plains, and then into wilderness. It's so interesting because in a small area like Maui that you can have 7 different climate zones that close.
Yeah.
And so it's just, everything is scenic. You want to take a picture of everything, and it's impossible to capture everything. And so it really is a beautiful island.
And the pictures don't even do it justice.
No, the ones that we posted that everybody said, man, those are amazing. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Coming over, we've been following a river as we've been coming through Oregon. And it is, you got the mountains in the background, you've got the turning hills and river.
Rocky crags.
I love it. Why did we live in Dallas for 13 years? Heartland, the airport,
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And answer that question.
There you go. That's it.
So that's why Heartland, that's why Grapevine and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex still remains high on the list of where we return to when this journey is over with.
Yeah.
Though I have to admit, Maui's got its things going on for it.
Yeah, you kept putting like balls in the
Maui
jar
Maui
over
jar.
here, like whoo.
Yeah, but there's some really big ones like cost of living.
Yes.
Yeah, a gallon of milk was.
Like almost $6.
Yeah. Gas was like $3.48. It's like $1 more per gallon.
Yeah.
Jenna went to the grocery.
Island.
Jenna went to the grocery store, came back with like a sack of groceries. I mean, I'm talking like turkey, cheese, milk,
Bread.
bars.
Granola bars.
She spent over $100.
Yeah.
And so I'm praying for the people of Maui. Now I know why they eat so much spam. We had multiple dishes.
We did have.
Yes. It's the first time I've had spam since I was a kid.
Yeah, but we had it fried like in a like it was like a sushi roll, and then it was deep fried.
Yep. I like that sushi roll with spam.
Masabi, something like that. I don't know. It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't
bad.
Wasn't too bad. So, anyway. Well, now we have left Hawaii, and the contrast is
Yes.
dramatic.
Weather, just in the weather, the weather alone. Because it was beautiful, like the entire time we were there. It did rain a little bit while we were there, which was unusual for the amount of rain and the consistency of the rain.
Yeah, because the way Maui is kind of set up, you got two volcanoes on it, and the ocean winds push moisture up towards the mountains. And as that wind starts going up and it carries that moisture up, it condensates and forms clouds right around the mountain, so it'll create this kind of lay. They call it the mountain lay. And then that's where the rain falls there onto the mountains, and it runs down into the valley. And so that's the climate of Maui. To have 3 days of rain is highly unusual.
Yes.
And even Chris was blaming that on me. He's like, it's all my fault. And I said, hey, you brought a revivalist to the island to contend for an outpouring, and when it begins to rain, you complain.
Yep. We bring the rain.
We bring the rain. So last year and the year before that, I think almost everywhere that I would go to minister, it rained.
Yeah.
I was beginning to like, this is kind of supernatural. And then when I started paying attention to it, it quit.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, it was 80, 78, 80 degrees like the entire time. When we get back to California, it was hot in California when we got there. We were only there for a couple of hours before we headed out up to Oregon.
Long enough to get back and to be welcomed to the stench in the RV.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I mean, like...
It was bad.
Like, somebody killed somebody and there was a corpse underneath.
That...
It was that bad.
Well, I know, but that's kind of graphic.
No, I'm just painting it because I can't send the smell through the camera,
but you can explain what happened and then people would understand.
So, we've been having issues with the refrigerator.
Yes. Which is not fun.
No, because we need a refrigerator.
We need a refrigerator.
I like cold drinks, and I like for milk not to be warm.
Yes.
Spoiled, and I like for meat, to be chilled.
Yes.
And so our refrigerator, since we left Texas, has been acting up. And
it's not been our friend.
It has not been the friend at all. And so the freezer was working, the refrigerator wasn't. We didn't have enough time to get it fixed. We finally in Danuba found an RV shop about a block away from the church. And so they had the RV the entire week working on the refrigerator. Thought that they had it fixed. Obviously not, because with 7 days away from the coach, we come home, and I moved everything over to the freezer just because I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
Because the freezer worked. Well, obviously, somewhere along the way, the freezer stopped working.
Everything spoiled. Everything.
Meat.
Milk. Everything.
Milk. Dairy. I mean, it just all spoiled. And so
it was bad.
I had to send Jenna and the kids away as I came in a hazmat suit and just did a thorough cleaning. But even still, you open up the refrigerator and I still smell it.
Yeah. So we have a cooler we've been using. It's kind kind of get stuff here and there and put it in there. Hey, we make it work. We make it work.
Make it work. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
It's all part of the adventure.
Trying to make up our mind as to whether or not to fix this refrigerator or just rip it out and put a residential in there. Anyway, I look at it, it's like a, oh man, minimum of $1,500 to $2,000, maybe even more.
Your
cost.
rolling hobby, babe. Your rolling hobby.
Yes. Yes. You know, after the adventure's over with, I guess all the appliances. So, already for those been following along, and I guess also in the expenses column of what we spend on this journey, it's about to get pretty pricey.
Yeah.
In the terms of what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
But hey,
It'll be all right.
it is the adventure of a lifetime.
It is, without a doubt.
We have rolled from literal East Coast to West Coast, and now we're moving north.
Yep.
And we'll come through Oregon. We're going to be ministering right outside of Portland this weekend. So I'm looking forward to experiencing Portland and that area. There's a couple national parks that I want to go check out during the week. But more important than all of that is just really, God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing here in the Pacific Northwest? One of the pastors we'll be working with, Pastor Vince Schott. He has been just a father.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even met him yet face to face. We just connected by the phone.
Yep.
But he's been so kind as to even help us get connected with churches up in this area without even knowing us.
Yep.
And so that's highly unusual for those that are evangelists or travel as ministers. You know, they did what?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. And Pastor Vince, he even told me, he said, Danny, this is just such an unusual favor upon what you guys are doing. And we really are very fortunate and honored, humbled, and grateful for what we feel like we're about to walk into.
Yeah.
It's uncharted territory. And Pastor Vince shared with me, he's like, the Pacific Northwest, he says, it has never experienced a prolonged move of God. He said, but we're contending for one. It's got some history. John G. Lake was up in this area. Some of the Azusa Street revival moved up into this area after a split. They kind of brought that revival to a close. So there's some roots in this area of significant outpourings, but not any sustained.
Right.
And so we're really looking forward to getting into that. So we'll share more and more with you over the kids in the background.
And we get to be here for just a little bit of time too,
Yes.
because of the different connections that Pastor Vince has put us in contact with.
Yeah. So the way that it works is Washington's going to kind of be the anchor state for the next month.
Yeah.
The church that we're with in Portland is actually north in Washington, and then we're supposed to be in Seattle the following week, which is, that's Washington.
Yeah.
And then we'll be with Pastor Vince out in Spokane, which is just right on the edge of Idaho, and so we'll be able to kind of hit those other states from those locations. And so it's going to be good.
It is going to be
It's going
good.
to be good. So anyway, I thought that it would be interesting to just kind of ask Jenna and myself this question, and that is, since we've come now a third of the way into this, what have we picked up? What have we learned? What have we experienced? What's something that we really could share with you? And I've asked Jenna to be thinking about that. And I will jump into this first, and then let her go in the final. What do we have?
We're at 18 minutes.
Okay, just in the final 12 minutes that we have. And I'm also going to pay attention as I'm coming into a
Steep grade.
6%
yes.
downgrade for the next 1 mile.
Yes. Those are always fun.
These are fun when you're hauling 35,000 pounds. So I've actually started making a list of things that I have learned along in the journey. And I've got 2 of them that I'll share with you right now. The rest of them I'm going to kind of hold on to myself. The first one is this, is that I really believe that the future of church and community has to be built around family. What I see beginning to happen in the church world is I could probably divide churches of the future into 2 different camps. And one camp, I don't know what to label it, but I'd say that it highly mimics the environment of business and leadership in Silicon Valley. If we're actually on the side of the United States, which is, Silicon Valley, Seattle, the top 5 companies in the world are based in these areas.
Yep.
Silicon Valley, the tech sector has become the seat of influence. And it certainly has shaped our world. And so the church has begun to learn from these things, and they've adopted and brought, the technology and the community, the social, all those things and best practices, causes. And so are creating churches that really implement these things and implement them very well. And they build a culture of people that kind of build themselves around a brand. And I'm not making a judgment as to whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you'll notice this when people are very quick to promote the brand of their church, even more so than Christ.
Right.
And we're all guilty of that, but it becomes, they talk more about the church than they do about the kingdom, or talk about Jesus. But that's becoming the growing segment. These are the churches that are branching out and becoming multi-campuses. They're getting really entrenched into technology, and they're doing that very well. And so trying to figure out that balance, because I know it's the world that we live in, but that certainly is that group of churches. And then the other church that I feel in the future, which this is the one that I probably would say looks more Christian community-wise, is going to be the family, or not the family-based church, but the church that truly gets community and coming together around what we call that Ohana culture. I really believe that people are genuinely wanting to be a part of something where they feel like they're connected, and those connections go deeper than family. And it's not about being around a brand or being around a church body. It's about the fact that we're all believers, we all share the same faith, but we all genuinely love one another, and we model that love for one another. I was trying to think about how you would even kind of demonstrate that, but I would say it this way. One thing that I found interesting at Chris's church is, and this isn't something that they talk about or celebrate, they take care of the single moms in the church. They genuinely take hold of that. The true gospel is taking care of the widows and the orphans. And so on a week-to-week basis, their outreach, their giving to their community is really unprecedented. Some people might look at that and say, well, you're creating a dependent state, but the truth is what it is, it's family. We're all leaning on one another. And I see those two kind of dynamics kind of working into the future. I do believe that churches moving ahead have to figure out, how do we embrace and cultivate that environment of community and family within inside of our fellowship and our churches. It's key.
Yeah.
Without it, you're not going to exist.
It's true.
No matter what type, church you are, or what, if you are a church that a month can go by, and I shared this in a video, if a month can go by and the extent of your relationships at church was a hi bye at church. Hey, God bless you, how are you doing? God, so good to see you. And we've experienced this having traveled in a lot of churches, that you get that kind of southern hospitality. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's so good to see, so glad that you're here. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday goes by. There's no follow through or follow up on that until you come back into the church the next week, and it's, oh man, I'm so glad to see you. Right. So glad to see you. That right there is actually hurting us.
Yeah.
Really hurting us. And we've got to really begin to figure out, how do we cultivate and implement an environment of truly loving one another as Christ commands us to do as disciples. I've got a lot of thoughts on that that I'm beginning to meditate and pray into, and it ties into something else that I'll share here in a moment. What's something that you've either picked up, learned, experienced in this journey?
I think kind of along those same lines is the different churches that we've worked with, their heart for not just community, but the community around them that we've been able to see. Because I think that for a long time, church has been internally focused. How do we do everything inside the house? How do we build better programs inside the house? How do we do all this? And with the intent of it going outside of the house, but for a lot of times it doesn't reach past those four walls. But being able to actually see churches that really have a heart and a burden for the community around them, and going into the community and doing something different, whether it's buying up storefronts and renovating them and really bringing life back into a town, whether it is doing outreach with food distribution, whether it is going outside of your own church house and sowing into other ministries across the state, just really seeing that kingdom mindset of that it's not just about this house, it's not just about my house, it's not just about the church, but it's about God's house. And how can we truly build the kingdom by not only equipping the people inside the house, but then allowing them to take that from inside the house outside to the community around them, and really being influencers in the community and bringing in those that are lost and that are hurting and that need that love, that family, that discipleship, and all of those things into the house for the healing and restoration, and then sending them back out, so that you're still doing the whole creating disciples and building the church and building the kingdom, but the mindset is not just about how can I just focus on what is God doing here, but having a kingdom mindset of what is God doing around us that we can sow into and be a part of.
And one thing that it really isn't church in the future has to become very kingdom minded, because his kingdom is the only kingdom.
Right.
He doesn't have churches, he has a church, and that's his kingdom. And we've become very good at building and growing our churches, but we've neglected the kingdom.
Right.
And this kind of pulls into the other thing that I'm really about to drop this one with just a couple minutes left, and maybe we'll have to tackle it in another roadcast, because I'm really, this is one thing that I'm beginning to kind of learn and see. I'm a firm believer in the 80-20 rule, that 80% of what you do produces 20% of the results. Likewise, 20% of what you do produces 80% of the results. Effective leaders start to concentrate on the 20%, the things that are giving me my 80%, and they pour themselves into those things, and that's what makes them successful. I'm a firm believer in that principle. I was thinking about that as we were flying back from Hawaii, and the Lord really started kind of like just letting me see the church world in general across the United States and around the world. And I began to be heartbroken, because I believe this. I believe that 80% of what the church is doing today, 80% of our resources, our investment, 80% of what we are doing today is accomplishing little to nothing. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
We tout things, we celebrate things that, in the moment may look like a really good story, but if you look at the eternal side of things, it didn't measure up. You're like, okay, Daniel, what are you talking about? I'll give you a really easy example. The number one item that churches spend money on, by and large, typically is facilities. At least a third, if not more, of the budget will go into buildings and facilities. It's one of the largest items that are there. If you look at just the amount of money that a church puts into maintaining a facility and everything like that, and then look at how much that's utilized out of a week's period of time, you would come up with probably less than 10%.
Right.
So that's not a good investment. People would say, well, it's necessary, we've got to meet somewhere. I think you got to think more creatively in the world that we're moving into. How do we make a better kingdom investment? Because I do believe this: whenever I see churches put millions and millions of dollars into useless things that do not produce eternal significance, get a church in Dallas that spent over $7 million for a fountain in front of the church that plays. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's like the Bellagio. I mean, it plays music, it dances, they baptize people in it. It is a wonderful display right there in the center of Dallas with $7 million. And I think to myself, how many widows and orphans and different people that could have helped.
Right.
I'm not trying to make a judgment on the church. I'm just saying that when we stand before God, we've got to give an account for what He's given us. And part of what He's given us is the resources. And so we got to ask the question, was that a good, wise investment of what the Lord has given to us? And I think more times than not, this is across the board. The church is guilty of spending funds and expending energy and resources on things that produce little to no eternal significance. And we've got to change the way that we think. And that's just one example, and I think that's a very clear one because we can kind of all measure that out. Another one is in discipleship. You know, the church is called to make disciples. If we're doing anything really well right now, you know, we're doing church really well, but I think the thing that we're doing well is actually the thing that we're doing worse. The thing that's working well right now in the church is actually working against us. Today, people do not introduce people to Christ. They don't do evangelism. They invite people to church. The church is not supposed to be the net that we throw out to win the lost. A church that cannot boast that we see more people saved during the week as our disciples go out and win the lost is a church that is not doing the work of the church. It is a dead and a dying church. And though it may boast big numbers and it may boast big budgets, if you really look at the eternal weight of how things are really measured on the difference that we're genuinely making, we might find that things really aren't as they seem. And that's the reason why I say that the Lord's really, you know, I'm just kind of like looking at things and seeing, is it possible that 80% of what we are investing ourselves into is producing little to no return? And if that's the case, what do we have to change and what do we have to do about it? That is something I'm going to be meditating on and praying into in the next part of this journey. As we kind of like, and I know I was like, okay, I just dropped that one out there.
No, it's good, but I think that goes along with everything that we've talked about today, even from what we've learned in being in Maui. It's that overflow. You know, it's not just I just do this one thing inside the four walls, almost like I live a separate life. You know, and this is what I do on Sundays. This is what I do on Wednesdays, and everything else just kind of happens. You know. But it's that overflow where everything comes together. It's the overflow of ministry, and it's not that I'm on staff at a church and that's ministry. It's that ministry to my family. It's ministry to my co-workers, ministry to my community, because everybody's called to be full-time ministers, and everybody is part of the work of the ministry and equipped to be able to do that. So out of that overflow, it should be natural that we're seeing God move outside the four walls.
Yeah. The measure of that really ought to be, you know, every church is called to make disciples. That's part of the mission statement. I've read your mission statements, my friend. I have seen them. You all have it in your mission statement, to win the lost, to make disciples. You know, disciples make disciples. We need to do a just across the board grade, a gut check of our church. Are our disciples winning the lost in their workplaces, in their schools? Are they discipling those that they are winning? If not, then we're failing at the very root and the core of what we're doing. And what we've done as a church is we're creating programs to supplement what's not happening at the place where it's supposed to.
That's really good. Come to my program. Come to do this.
Because we're trying
I'm not equipped
we're
to do
trying
it
to
outside.
facilitate a need that's not being met where it's supposed to be met.
Yeah.
That's like creating an artificial heart and putting it inside of the body to try and keep the body alive. Sooner or later, that heart's going to fail. What you need is a healthy heart, so you got to get back to making the people healthy. And the way that takes place is genuinely cultivating disciples. And I don't believe that happens in the brand church. I believe that happens in the community, the Ohana Church.
Yeah.
When we genuinely get a hold of that. So, anyway, I know we just went over. It's 34 minutes. You got 4 minutes of extra time. But, and I know I threw that, it's like right there at the very end, he threw that in there. I didn't have time to talk about it. We will in the next roadcast when we meet back up with you on the other side of Washington. I look forward to sharing a lot of this amazing journey with you. It has been life-changing for us.
It really has.
I don't know where the road continues to go on from here, but it's been an adventure.
Yeah.
The kids are having the time of their life. They didn't want to leave Hawaii.
They didn't. They all cried.
Caden put his foot down. I'm not leaving Hawaii. I like Hawaii. It's the first time that's happened.
This is true.
I don't blame him. I think he's just a beach boy.
Yes. They love the beach.
So
sure.
anyway, we love you. are praying for you. Thank you for those of you that have just written us and responded during these broadcasts, whether it's just been a simple message on Facebook, or you've taken the time to email us or send us a letter. Those of you that have jumped on board and become a part of our 300 and just a giving of finances. Thank you so much. It helps us do what we do. I know that we couldn't do it without you, and we're doing it together. This is not just us. This is all of us together. We're all learning and growing, and I really do feel like this has got major kingdom significance. And so we love you. Until next time, aloha.
Aloha.